Okay, so we're diving deep into Romeo and Juliet today, and specifically Act 2, Scene 6.
Woo! Act 2, Scene 6.
And this is a big one
It is?
because it's the wedding scene.
Yeah, they're going for it.
They're going for it. We've seen Romeo and Juliet, fall head over heels,
Crazy in love.
totally
Yeah.
defying their
These
family.
families hate each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so now they're like, okay, let's get married.
Secret wedding.
Secret wedding.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at this scene. We're going to unpack it.
Yes.
And talk about some of the themes. And I want to give our listeners, some things to think about maybe for their next class discussion.
Oh, I like that.
Yes.
Yeah, give them some good points to bring up.
Exactly.
Okay.
So right away, we see Romeo, and he is just
Oh, he's so excited.
so excited.
Yeah.
And he says, it cannot countervail the exchange of joy.
Love devouring death, do what he dare.
Like, whoa.
He's ready.
He is not messing around. He is like, bring it on, death. I don't even care because I have love.
He's very intense.
Yes. And so what do you think about that? What do you make of those lines?
Oh, right away, it's like, okay, Shakespeare's doing some foreshadowing here.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember, this is a tragedy.
Right. It's not a comedy.
We know how it ends.
Yes.
And so when he's saying, love devouring death, do what he dare, it's like, uh-oh, he's almost like inviting it in a little bit.
Yeah, it's almost like he's tempting fate.
Yeah.
A little bit like, I'm so in love, I don't even care what happens.
And I think that shows a lot about Romeo's character, too.
Yes.
He's very passionate, maybe to a fault.
Impulsive.
Impulsive.
And then we have Friar Lawrence,
Friar Lawrence, the voice of reason.
the voice of reason,
Right.
who tries to, get Romeo to just chill
Take a breath.
a little bit.
Yeah.
And he gives this really great line, these violent delights have violent ends, and then therefore love moderately.
What a good line.
It's so good.
Moderation, right?
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
Like, slow down.
Yeah.
Don't get too crazy.
And that was a really important idea back then, too, like in Shakespeare's time.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, they had this idea called the golden mean,
Okay.
which was basically like everything in moderation, not too much of anything.
Balance.
Balance, exactly.
Yeah.
And so the friar's like, Romeo, you are out of balance right now.
You're going to extremes.
Yeah, you got to bring it back.
Yeah, and I love that analogy of, like, fire.
Ooh.
You
Tell me more.
if you have, like, a nice, small, contained fire,
Yeah.
it can be, like, really, helpful and warming. Cozy.
Cozy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it gets out of control,
Right.
watch out.
It's a wildfire.
It burns everything down.
And so the friar is kind of saying, like, Romeo, your love is like a wildfire right now, and it could be dangerous.
It could consume you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then
Juliet arrives.
and it's so beautiful.
Beautiful entrance.
And Shakespeare, of course, uses these gorgeous images to describe her.
Oh, he's the best with imagery.
He really is.
Yeah.
He says, oh, so light of foot.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, you have this image of Juliet being so light.
Light as a feather.
Yes, like she's almost floating.
Like she's barely touching the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have this really hard, unyielding image of
Like
Flint
this lasts forever.
that lasts forever.
Yeah.
And so he's contrasting those two things.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think it's kind of showing like this tension between
The
the lightness of young love, the newness of it, the excitement.
fleetingness of it.
Exactly, versus this like harsh reality.
The permanence of the world.
Right, like the world is a hard place
Hmm.
and their love is so fragile.
It might get crushed.
It might get crushed.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting.
It is.
So we have Romeo who's like, death, I don't care.
Yeah.
Friar Lawrence is like, slow your roll. And then we have Juliet, and Juliet's expression of love is quite different.
Oh, yeah. It's much more grounded.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And she says, conceit more rich in matter than in words.
Mm.
I cannot sum up some of half my wealth.
She's not like Romeo,
No, she's not as showy.
She's not as like over the top with the pronouncements of love.
Right.
She's like, my love is deep. I don't even need words.
It's internal.
Yeah, she's internal.
Yeah.
And this is a great point, I think, for a discussion.
Yes.
Because is she just as, caught up in the romance?
Right.
Or is she more realistic?
It's a good question.
It's up for debate.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we have these three different viewpoints.
The passionate lover, the voice of reason.
The grounded lover.
And then the friar makes a decision.
A big decision
A big decision.
to marry them.
He's like, all right, let's do this.
He says, come with me, and we will make short work.
He's not even, like, questioning it.
He's just going for it.
He's like, let's go, let's go.
What do you think about that?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, maybe he thinks he's doing the right thing.
Right.
Maybe he thinks, if I marry them, maybe their families will stop fighting.
Like love will conquer all.
Yeah. Or maybe he just, wants to help these kids.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, he's kind of going against his own advice, right?
That's true.
He's like, don't rush into things, but also let's do this really quickly.
Let's get this done.
It's a little bit of a mixed message.
A little bit, yeah.
So is he making the right call?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a good question to think about.
Yeah, and maybe to bring up in class.
Definitely.
Because it really makes you question the friar's motives.
Yes. Is he helping, or is he actually, making things worse?
It's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell.
At this point.
And that's what's so great about Shakespeare.
He makes us think.
He makes us think.
He doesn't give us all the answers.
Exactly. So we've looked at Act 2, Scene 6.
Such a good scene.
It is a good scene.
Yeah.
And I think it really kind of sums up the whole play.
Yeah, all the major themes are there.
They're all right there.
The passionate love.
The dangers of rushing in.
Moderation, reason.
Fate versus free will.
All of those big ideas.
And so I think a great question to leave our listeners with is this.
I'm ready.
Okay. Did Romeo and Juliet sear their fate by rushing into marriage?
Ooh, good one.
Or were they doomed from the start? Like, was it always going to end this way?
Were they always going to end up, in that tomb?
Exactly.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, something to think about.
Yeah.
As you continue reading the play.
Exactly.
All right, well, that's our deep dive into Act 2, Scene 6 of Romeo and Juliet.
So much to unpack.
There's so much there.
Yeah.
But hopefully we've given our listeners some good stuff to think about.
Oh, for sure.
And
we'll see you next time for more Shakespeare.
for another deep dive.
Another deep dive.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.